Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Marion County Hardball. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that if you appreciate the podcast, you can sponsor or donate by hitting the stars or going to the top of Marion County Messenger's Facebook page and donating in our coffee. This money goes to the Marion County Messenger. Rurik has asked me to tell you that he is not employed by the Marion County Messenger. He is strictly a volunteer. So the money is coming to help us with our website, our Facebook page, and all that good stuff. Tonight, folks, I want to introduce Cliff Huffman. Cliff is running for the Marion County Commission. And before we get started, Cliff, just let me take another opportunity to invite anyone that is running for public office from any party or no party at all. We would like to have you on Marion County Hardball and interview you and give you a chance to share your ideas with the public. And that goes for any of our elected officials as well. And with that, Rurik, would you like to take it away?
Mr. Huffman, thank you for running. I'd like you to give the audience an idea of who you are, your education, your work experience, and why you're running.
Okay. Well, first off, let me say thank you both for having me. And I also want to say that I really, truly appreciate what it is you guys are doing.
Thank you.
And the reason for that is because I feel like that right now, our constituents need is to be informed. And I think that there's a want for that in this process in Marion County. And that's one of the things that I've noticed. And that's one of the things that's driven me to run. Anyway, that said, my name is Cliff Huffman. I'm running for Commissioner for District 1 of Marion County, Seat 2. And I would appreciate it if you guys would vote for me. Now, I am an independent. I'm running as an independent. I'm beholden to no party. My goal will be to advocate for my constituents, who I would consider primarily to be District 1. My background is in healthcare. I was a nurse for about 30 years. Eventually ended up with a master's degree, went in, became a nurse practitioner. Some of the core principles of nursing are what really kind of drove me into this process. One of them is integrity. Of course, one of them is caring. And then the other, and I think a big one, is protection or advocacy for vulnerable populations. And that's one of the things that I can really apply or bring into this process with me. So, education-wise, as I said, I had a couple of bachelor's degrees and then a master's. And my background, as I said, is in nursing.
And how long have you been here, Cliff?
So, my wife and I moved here 30 years ago. And we've lived where we live, which is we're up in an area called Sewanee Monteagle Properties. I guess it's maybe called South Pittsburgh Mountain around these parts.
Well, you're off Jackson Point Road.
Yes, sir. Jackson Point, around that area. And we've been out there for 30 years. And so we've seen a lot of growth out there in the time that we've been out there.
There's a lot of growth out there. A lot of growth. Matter of fact, Corey Pickett just did your road out there, didn't he? Yeah,
and I was just talking to Corey today, and that was one of the points that I was bringing up to him, was that when we moved out there, the road wasn't even tar and chipped.
Yeah.
You know, so anything he does out there, I'm very appreciative for. It's an improvement to me.
Well, what's some of the things that that has driven you to go down the path of being a county commissioner?
Well, so one of the big things is that an issue came up in our community, and it was an issue that drove my community to go down and address the commissioners. You know, and again, I've lived here for about 30 years, and in that time, the community I lived in, there just weren't that many people there. We lived in a fairly solitary lifestyle. More and more people were moving out there. When this issue came up for our community, it was a time when I saw my community come together for a common cause. And it was really inspiring to me. Not just was it inspiring to me, but also I started to be able to recognize and acknowledge some of the great skilled resources that we had out there. You know, we've got some really good people, and so we went to the we went as a group and sit before the commission for this issue that we had. It did not end well for us. And one of my takeaways from that was that, you know, I think that where we live, we're really an isolated population.
Almost forgotten by Marion County.
Here's the thing. So I started thinking about that. I started thinking, well, we need local representation. We need that. Then I started looking at my district map. Sweden's Cove, New Hope, Orem. How many other communities in District 1 feel the same way that we feel up where we are right now? And how valid are those concerns and those feelings?
Sure.
So that's what's driving me. It's really what it is that I want to do is and just as I said before, I want to advocate for my constituents. I want to hear what their issues are. I want to know what the issues are in District 1. I know what my issues are, but that's not my job as commissioner. My job as commissioner is to represent my constituents, fiduciary duty. Right. That's my job. So what I want to do is I want to knock doors, talk to people, find out, how is it that you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And you know, and arrive at some kind of a consensus in terms of going into a commission meeting and making decisions. I think that number one, I think that the community needs to be involved. Number two, I think the community needs a newborn sense of community. You know, I feel like that and I've experienced the level of this just even when I was going around getting signatures for my petition. There's a learned helplessness in this community. There is a learned helplessness. People that feel like their voice does not matter. People that just feel like everybody's out there is out there for themselves. And that's a shame, and people should not feel that way. And one of the issues that I've heard, and Rick, I watch a lot of you guys hardballs, one of the common recurring themes that I'm hearing from people that are getting up here and talking is a lack of openness, or what they sense to be a lack of openness and a lack of accountability and transparency within our government. Now, whether or not that's the case, if that's how people feel, then I think it's very possible that leads them into this kind of sense of learned helplessness. I want people to feel like they're a community that has a voice, that has a say, and should rightfully determine some of the outcomes and some of the decisions that are made for this county.
One thing that I've seen, in all fairness to our government as it is today, I think we've had such a growth. There's so many new people coming in, and I get that folks that are from here, you know, they're like, hey, let's not change the way we are, you know, and that's always the balance. That's always how do you respect what new people say and what they would like to see with the people that are already here. So you come into the commission, you know, how do you, in your mind, you think that we can bridge and stop calling people necessarily outsiders and say, hey, you're my neighbor, you're a newcomer. Welcome to the area. I'd love to hear what you have to say. But I'd like you to also listen to what I have to say. Absolutely.
So I think the first way to address that, it's the golden rule. You know, treat people. Let's just start by treating people the way we want to be treated. Let's talk to people the way we want to be talked to. You know, just if you've been here for a long time, you have established ideas. And I read. You know, I'm looking at social media and I'm seeing some comments that are, you know, people who basically have that kind of mindset of, this is how it's worked here for 30 years. It's always worked. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It may not be a bad thing, but I believe that old ideas need to be balanced and challenged by new ideas. And I feel like that is critical to a vibrant, growing community. If we want to grow you've got to be open to new ideas. If you're not, then you're not going to advance. Right. That's my opinion. But I'm open to what other people have to say, and that's kind of why I want to get out there and hear what it is that other people feel like and why they feel that way.
No, I think this experience for me has been kind of interesting. where I've met a lot of wonderful people. I used to think that well, you want to tell your constituents in your area that your political beliefs are this way, and then you have a tendency not to want to listen to theirs. So I think you're right. I think if we're more open and listen instead of attacking, maybe that'd be a good start.
So just to add to what it is you're saying, I think that if you're going in the mindset of fiduciary duty or fiduciary, then yes, you have your own views, but that is not the principal view that you need to be adopting here. As a fiduciary is what you're doing. You're putting your constituents above your own interests. And so that's the way I look at that.
Well, it's a novel idea. We just got to put it in play, right?
It's not supposed to be novel. Isn't that the definition of fiduciary?
Yeah, it is. So you're getting ready to you got your petition signed.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you've already submitted it.
Correct.
Okay, so you're going to be ready to start campaigning.
That's correct. I'll start knocking doors. I've already started a Facebook page. I'm going to start doing, actually I've got a video that I'm going to try to get posted tonight. I'll start trying to do on Facebook a few maybe position kind of videos. I haven't really exactly figured out how that's going to look for someone who's wanting to listen more than to state there. And that's really the way that I want to approach this, is I really want to be listening more than it is talking. That's what I want to do.
Oh, I think that's excellent.
And so I'm still trying to figure out what those position videos are going to look like. I think what they're going to be is, the direction that they'll go is that they'll end up being more provocative than they are informational, and less about how I feel about a position, more about what do we do, kind of theoretical questions that we could ask and maybe provoke responses, because that's really what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to build community. I'm trying to get community involved, so that that gives me something to work with. I've got to have something to work with. I got to have some input, and if I start getting input, even on social media, I can start to build polls. That's the way that, once you start building polls, then you start finding out what's the popular, what do your constituents want?
Sure.
What's the majority want?
So your district would encompass Orm. So I guess you're going to have to make a little drive down that road going into Orm, which I know the people down there definitely want that road fixed. The one that's on top of 156 running down.
Yeah.
Because the school buses go down that road. Now Corey's done an excellent job of grading it and keeping it good. So I think that's a big issue there. And then you'll have to travel all through New Hope, of course.
New Hope, Orm, Sweetens Cove,
all the way up the cove, for a good chunk up the cove, and then of course, South Pittsburgh.
Yeah. South Pittsburgh is probably going to be the easy one. I mean, just because there's a lot of, you don't have to go as far between doors, I think, in general now. I'm not saying it's all like that.
Well, I'm excited for everyone that's willing to do this crazy job, because it is not a job for popularity, obviously, because especially if you're going to do like what you just said, that you're going to listen to what your folks want. And sometimes what your folks want isn't necessarily what you want. And it does not make you popular when you have to bring something up that you're going, oh, I don't want to bring that up, but I have to. So I thank you for what you're doing. I also, before we and of course, Duke, you'll do your closing. We have some special guests with us. We have Sherry Leidy with us tonight, and we have Kelly Hogan. And we thank you for coming by. We're going to be interviewing Sherry, I hope, in the near future. And we'll definitely have Kelly Hogan back on, running for trustees. So excited about that. So why don't you go ahead and we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Well, as I said, I'm running for District 1, running as an independent. I am committed to respecting and recognizing the will and the wishes of my constituents. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm about. I'm not in a position where, I guess I'm retired. We're comfortable. I I don't really feel like there's a lot of kind of personal gain in this for me. But
Believe
there
me,
is a
there's not.
sense. There's a sense of doing good and doing what's right, and I've been to a commission meeting where I walked out of there feeling like things weren't right, and you could almost say I'm on a mission to make things right. That's who I am.
Okay, with that, we thank you very much for coming on Marion County Hardball. We thank all of our wonderful listeners for watching and sending the comments. Please send us some stars if you'd like to help support what we do, or go to the top of our Facebook page and click on our Ko-fi and make a donation. And we'll be back next week with another Marion County Hardball.